So, hello everyone. How are you all doing? Thanks for joining for a stream. Today we're gonna build a Magento extension from scratch. Let me stop my live preview and let me open up my project as well. So we're gonna work on a Magento 2 extension related to functionality of a customer section load. So the one that produces a lot of issues for a lot of Magento 2 merchants because it produces a lot of HTTP requests where they are not required. What we're gonna do with this extension, we're actually gonna build it from scratch by using practice of writing tests first, as always on my streams. And what we're gonna do today, we're gonna try and implement it also with functional tests first as well, because we already have some base functionality already in Magento against which we can create some kind of functionality around it. And apart from that, I think we also can write some interesting test cases. So it would be interesting to see how it plays out. Not sure if during today's stream we can really start and build something already from scratch that will run and work, but at least we can create some basic build setup. Let me know if you have any questions as far as we go through the development right now, and yeah, just write your questions in chat. I have it open, so I can always keep an eye on what is happening, and I also kind of try to minimize it as well. So let me reduce the size here, I think. Let me try to pop it out. Okay, so now I have the window open. I'll put it on top so I see your chat comments right away. Okay, hi Lucas, thanks for a nice first message in the chat. So let me see if I can also share some more screens with you. Let me. Okay, so we will do everything from this OBS studio recording, and let me also open the multi-view rendering. So here is my basic setup that I have right now. There is nothing except some composer file and standard files I have in every project. This is usually changelog, composer.json. So these files are usually the ones that I use all the time. Changelog is something, if you are not aware of it, it's kind of interesting convention where you keep changes from release to release in a single file in your repository, and you can just create a very nice explanation of what was happening from release to release. It is very simple. Now, apart from that, the composer JSON file is nothing special. I probably have to change it to a different type of the module. Let me remember what's the type of the module it is for Magento 2. Let's quickly see. Magento 2 composer module. Yeah, Lucas, we can have an automatically generated changelog. You are correct. The only thing that with automatically generated changelog, you kind of have to take care about your commits a lot. And I usually use Git flow, and with Git flow the changelog can be different based on different features that are currently working. And when I have everything in changelog file, when I just merge and commit together, I don't need to worry about generating this changelog based on those different branches merged together, because I just don't need to do it. I just have everything already in the file, and I can merge together and release changes, and only when I prepare a new release I just create an entry with the version change. Was that okay? So let's go to the composer type. Okay, so component types, let's see. Okay, so it's gonna be a Magento 2 module, so I'm gonna add it here. So it's gonna be a type Magento 2 module. As with any Magento 2 module, it's probably gonna have an afterload here as well. So we're gonna have an afterload, and I think it's gonna be files, and here we'll have this registration.php definitely as one of the files. We don't have this file yet here, so let's just quickly create it. This is the file in which we will put our component registration for Magento. Apart from that, we're gonna also create a PSR for a definition for our module. So it's gonna be ecomdef customer section load reducer. Yeah, so here is the namespace, and here I'm gonna specify the directory in which the code is gonna lie around. Apart from that, we're gonna have also afterload dev. So afterload dev, it's something that's gonna be used when we're gonna run our development dependencies. So here we can specify PSR for ecomdef customer section load reducer. It's also going to be under the same base namespace. The only thing that it's going to include files from the tests directory. Okay, and now the basic setup I think is ready. Let's quickly validate our composer configuration. Looks like it's valid. So apart from that, I'm also gonna init a new Git repository here. This is something that I still didn't do, and right away I'm just gonna run git flow init with creation of all the basic branches. Okay, seems like we are done with that one. Now, as I was mentioning, we're gonna have some automated testing running, and what we're gonna start with, actually I'm gonna move the microphone a little bit closer to me. Oh, my microphone was typing on my keyboard. So let me just quickly fix the stand. Okay, now it's better. Probably I have to buy the hanging microphone stand. It's gonna be much more convenient for me to type on my keyboard. And okay, here we have our files, but I'm not gonna add them yet. I'm gonna create first of all a dependency on bhat. So I'm gonna run composer require --dev bhat, and as far as I remember, it was bhat. Okay. Did it find it? Yes, perfect. So it found bhat and it installed it already. That's one thing. Another thing, for bhat we're gonna use Mink. Mink, it's a special extension for a Behat that allows us to run tests in a browser. So Composer require Behat Mink, as far as I remember. Oh, wrong. Don't edit. Okay, installation failed because I forgot a very small thing here called def. So I don't want to add Behat Mink to a dev to the main module. I just want to set it up as a dev dependency. In such a way, I can make sure that my functionality, the functionality of Behat Mink is gonna be run only with I'm gonna run only with development instance, not in production Magento. Another thing I need to install, I need also to install Behat Mink Chrome driver, as far as I remember. This is something that allows us to run. Is available in stability which matches your. Okay, could not find. Okay, it's interesting. Oh, what kind of stability this extension has? Let me quickly check. Behat Mink Chrome driver. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, so this is a little bit different. It's dmur Chrome Mink driver, so it's a different base name. So it should be dmur Mink Chrome driver. Is it? Correct. So okay. Let me quickly check again on the package name. Oh, it's Chrome Mink driver, so it's completely not following the naming convention. So okay, dmur Chrome Mink driver. This one is installed. Cool. Now what we have to do next? Let's open a reference repository because I already was building it before. I just want to look it up, and it's gonna be also sent to the chat, so you will be able to see it as well. So let me just find it here in all the repositories I have all over the time. So I think it was session manager. Yeah, it was across domain session manager. So over here there is some example of the configuration for Behat. Okay, so it was a future context with some session pool. Well, let me check again what I was specifying in futures. So here is the future context. Okay, it was depending on the Mink. Context. Okay, cool. Now I'm gonna just run think I can just run vendor bin behat init. Or it's dash dash init. Yeah, it's dash dash init. So now we have this new folder here called bootstrap, and inside of this bootstrap we have our feature context. This feature context, it's a kind of class in which we're gonna store the PHP codes that will later on resolve to the actual steps we're gonna provide in the actual features file. So I'm gonna mark it right away, this directory, as the tests root, and I'm gonna try and create some sample feature file. So I'm gonna create a feature that will test now, yeah, default, or let's say anonymous user behavior future. Okay, so the future itself is gonna be terrible. Okay, anonymous. Again. Let's use this one as a suggestion. So, okay, correct. Anonymous user behavior. Terrible name of the feature. Okay. Now we're gonna specify as anonymous user. What I do, I want to browse Magento store without additional Ajax requests. In order to reduce, or probably not an anonymous user, probably we have to specify it from point of view of a merchant. As a merchant, I want to serve static pages without additional HTTP requests, so that my hosting bill stays low for first time visitors. Yeah. Let's quickly fix it. Probably this one can be removed from the description of the task, because serving static pages means we don't do any dynamic calls at all on that page. So now when I have that one set up, I can start and write scenarios. So a scenario first, let's say visiting homepage. Given Probably there is no given in this case, so I can just specify when I visit homepage, and then I see only homepage in completed requests. Only visited page in completed requests. So in such a way, we're gonna be able to generate our context actions based on it. Now I'm just gonna go on and run a test with this generated action. So it tells me that I need to implement the visit homepage, and I need to implement I see only visited page in completed requests. So this is what we're gonna add here into this class. And for now, I'm just gonna copy paste this methods. Of course, I'm gonna rename them because I don't need to put complete sentences into my method names. I see only visited page in completed requests. Verify visited page in access log. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do later on, and here's a pending exception. Probably we have to import a class from the behat. So here we go. I can now, I think, run a behat. Okay, now it tells me that the first one doesn't pass because I have an exception being thrown. Okay, so this is a good base to start up with continue implementation of the functionality. So the next step is going to be actually setting up the actual worker that is able to run our test in the real browser. So for that one, I was using a very simple gist. Let me just look it up. So for instance, if you have a Chrome driver, you can call it with command line, and then you can communicate with it on a specific port that it's available on. So here I, for instance, can just specify the host name. Yeah, so let me quickly check. Okay, YouTube tells me that something is wrong with the live stream. Just a moment, let me check if everything is fine. Looks like all is good. Okay, I was a little bit concerned that something is wrong with the live stream. Okay, so seems like everything is good. Good. Okay. So let me continue. And let me actually send you this URL I have for the Chrome driver setup. So this is the gist to install the required software as well. Here is something that I use. I just used Chrome driver in order to start up the Chrome driver itself. You can also specify different parameters for a Chrome driver. Like for instance the port number, because probably we're gonna specify a different port for every single setup we're gonna have on the project. So probably we can just, or we can even start it ourselves as well. Let me just take a look here. So we have, no, probably we're not gonna start it ourselves. I was starting before on different projects it separately, so let's just start it in the background. Let's run it on the port 1999. Oh, why it's what? Does it expect only specific port? Ah, okay, I see. So first of all, oh, I don't have a screen. Nice. Now I'm gonna have a screen. And now I can start a WebDriver. With a port equals to 1990 in the background. Oh, sorry, it's Chrome driver. Okay, so here it is. Now I can go on here in the future context, and I can start, I think, a session, right? A Minq session into which I can specify probably a list of actions. So let me look it up how I was setting up before. So in the same repository I was sending you before, there is already some setup happening for a future context. Okay, so it just takes a session pool, but session pool is not that important for me. And what it expects from a session pool. Bring the actor session, and this get session, what it does. Let me check. Ah, okay, I actually need to extend from the Minq context. let me check about the behat configuration. Okay, it doesn't matter much. So I think it should be just started as, yeah, first of all I need to extend from Mink context. Okay, strange, I can't do it. Probably I miss another dependency in my composer file. Let's quickly look into composer.json of that project. So it should be behat and then behat Mink extension. Okay, so this is what I'm missing. I'm missing additional dependency. Why? Oh, because I actually started in the background. So let's quickly take a look. Yeah, so here it started, but now I want to run composer require def dash def behat Mink extension, right? Okay, so now it's installing it. And now I probably can extend from Mink context. Yeah, so now it does it finally. As far as I remember, there were also some additional things that I have to configure. So get Mink. Okay, what else do I need to configure as well? So I remember I was having this behat configuration. Okay, so I need also to enable a Mink extension as well. So I need to create a configuration file. Let me copy it over from my existing project. So it should be named behat YAML. Okay, this one is working, and Mink extension seems like gonna work. So let's see if I need to put any additional configuration for the Mink driver. Behat extension. So let's see what I need to specify. So if I want to create sessions, okay, so it should be default, and in a default I need to specify, I think, Chrome driver. Let me quickly check if it works. Okay, this is strange. That I can't have this one actually running. Yeah, so it's a little bit interesting. So do I need actually to run it through a Selenium then? Probably better than to do it through a Selenium. Okay, let's not do it through a Chrome driver. Let's do it through Selenium 2. But then it means that my screen should run a little bit different command. So let's then start Selenium server, and we will have to specify there a command to start with a Chrome driver itself. So let me open it up. So you can find this command here. Okay, so here it is. Let's see. So here is a command that I need to run in order to start a Selenium server. So this is a command I've used. You can find it in the chat. Now I'm gonna try and run a behat. Okay, so I need to install Mync Selenium driver. So I'm just gonna go into the composer, and I'm gonna remove from required dev, I'm gonna remove Chrome Mync driver, and I'm gonna install Mync Selenium 2 driver. Yeah, let's just put the condition like that for dependency, and let's run composer update. Okay, looks like it did work. Okay, now I can try and visit a home page. So for this one, I'm just gonna visit HTTP localhost. Let's see if it's gonna open my Chrome browser. Okay, so what it tells me, could not find a connection. Oh, okay, I need to specify here in Minq extension, I have to specify browser name Chrome. Okay, now it executed a test and it was opening for a fraction of a second. It was opening a browser. So we see that it was trying to open this localhost page, but I don't have here any page so far. So okay, this one works and I'm happy it works. Now we need to actually build Magento in order to be able to test it out that it works correctly with our scenario. So in order to do so, I actually have to create a new directory here, and I will call it build. And inside of the build directory, I'm gonna have a Docker file. In this Docker file, we're gonna prepare our complete Magento installation with sampled data and everything. So I will be able to run Magento, create a Docker image from Magento, and then just add my extension in order to test it quickly if it works or not. So let's create our image from I think I'm gonna use byte internet image for that. So let me look it up. What is the image name? This is Hypernode Docker image. Okay, so here's the image definition. So docker.hypernode.com, byte internet, hypernode docker latest. Let's run docker build this build directory. Okay, wait a second. I think I need to clear my terminal before running a build. Okay, so now it's better. So now it's downloading this image in order to build a new Docker image out of it. Okay, it takes some time to get the latest image. I wish they had much more smaller image sizes, because this one doesn't sound like a good size of the image. It downloads. So in the meanwhile, basically what we are planning to do, we are planning first of all to create an environment variable called Magento version. So I will test against 2.3.3. This is basically this environment variable will be used in actually it is not environment variable, it's actually build argument, because I want to create a versioned Docker image for specific Magento version, so I don't need to rebuild Magento every time when I want to run my tests. I just have to mount my directory and that's all. Okay, So looks like it worked. Now I need to specify that there's gonna be an environment variable called let's say we're gonna call it extension path, and here is actually gonna be an array in a JSON format that will be added as a path composer repositories for our Docker image. Then we're gonna have as well extension require, and this one actually gonna be an empty JSON array, object, and also we're gonna have a custom entry point for this one. So yeah, let's leave entry point for now. Let's just do some initial setup. So first of all, we need to check if it actually works and can we actually run it. So let's just do a quick build. Okay, so everything works. Now let's run this image that we've built. Yeah, so let's first of all build it with some tag probably. Let's create a tag, our build, and we'll call it 2.3.3. Okay, looks good. And now we can do docker run our build. Okay, so it runs a Hypernode right now. So now probably if I do in another terminal window, if I open and curl localhost, okay, why it's refused? Oh yeah, I know why it's refused. Because yeah, also let's add -rm here. So as soon as we stop our container, it's also gonna remove it from the list of containers. And also now we are also gonna specify that it's gonna map port 80 to the port 80 of the host. So container starts, and now I'm gonna try to access it. Okay, so now I see that Nginx is working. However, it returns me back 4.3 page, so it means that I cannot yet access my Magento installment. So let's create a simple command actually to install Magento. So we'll create a dir. I think we're gonna do smarter, and we're gonna create here install Magento Datastage. So this is gonna be our Magento installation script. In bash, and I'm just gonna run it as user double I think app, it's app user, and I'm gonna run it as bash install Magento Datastage. But before running it, I need to actually copy it into the current directory in which I'm working. So let's do it, and let's quickly verify that it works. Okay, I need to go here because I have a history here of building it. So okay, so I've rebuilt it, and now I can see it worked, and it was running it as this user. So first of all, here in this bash script, I'm gonna create a new directory called dataweb Magento 2. Dataweb is the default path inside of Hypernode. I'm gonna attach actually, you know what, I'm gonna work only in dataweb directory, so I'm just gonna switch to dataweb, and yeah, let's just create this Magento 2 directory. Let's touch nginx Magento 2 flag. It will let Hypernode know that it's a Magento 2 install, not a Magento 1. Now I also gonna create right away a symbolic link to, yeah, I have to remove -rf public directory, and I can just symbolically link Magento 2 pub into public directory of the Hypernode. So this is basically will allow me to navigate for the Magento install. And now here I can run composer, create project. Let me quickly check what's the project name in Magento dev docs. So if I want to install it from composer, yeah, it's installation guide, yeah, create project. Why I can't select configuration options? Yeah, let's see. Composer file. So install using composer. Okay, so here it is. I found it. Okay, so I basically need to execute this command, and I need to specify that I want to install it into Magento 2 directory. And let's quickly test our build. Okay, it tells me that I'm missing an authentication, and this is quite a common thing. So I need also to specify here as a build argument I need to specify composer elf. And I hope it will pick it up from okay, so composer elf. Oh yeah, I need to do a small thing. I need to actually execute a small setup. Yeah, let me create it in my environment. Let me look up my out.json. Okay, so I need to add my credentials, so let me do it really quick. Oh my goodness, Magento. Magento requires me to change a password. Very nice of Magento. Right during the stream. Okay. So it didn't work. Why it didn't work? I don't understand. Okay. So okay. Update and save. Okay, works. So now I can go and finally generate the access to my Magento functionalities. So I'm gonna go into my profile marketplace and quickly get these access keys. You unfortunately or fortunately don't see it because I don't share it on OBS recording. So and I'm also entering this data itself in okay. I need also to copy some other stuff from another project. So real quick. So I'm gonna go and change it right away in my configuration files. So composer of that JSON. Okay, so now I can do a small trick here, and I can use composer alf, and then I can export it as environment variable, and I can use this trick in shell with ring value from config. Oh, okay. Export composer of equals to, oh, it's probably something like this. Config composer of JSON. Okay. Oh. Let me check if it actually worked in another window without exposing my keys. Okay, it seems worked quite perfectly. So I can just now build the composer thing. Okay, so unfortunately it requires me to specify it as a build argument of composer of, okay, does it work now? Do I need to specifically specify composer alf like this? It shouldn't be like that, right? Okay. White complaints. Okay, so let's take a look at no, build arc even didn't help. Now Lucas. Yeah, the problem is that env. Oh, probably I have also to specify probably here env composer of, I think. However, no, it's not different itself, so the composer of should be just specified as variable. Yeah, so it's a little bit weird. Let me quickly check. Passing env as build arc in Docker. Let's see. Oh, okay, now I see. so basically I need to specify something like that, and then over here I need to specify build arc equals composer of equals composer of, and oh yeah, and here should be also in quotes. Okay, however, yeah, let me just test it out. Export composer of blah blah. Oh yeah, I think I need also to pass it like this. No, it didn't work either. So let's run ho composer of, so I was adding some blah blah there. Yeah, so blah blah is transferred. Okay, so basically it should work, right? Oh yeah, let me then test it here in install Magento. Here ho composer of okay, here it actually didn't output anything, so probably I have to specify it in both places. I have to specify it like that, and then I have to specify environment variable composer of equals composer of like that. And let's see. Oh, I actually removed from here output of my nice blah blah point here. Okay, so it still didn't execute anything. Okay, so what's the point then? Yeah, so it sets it from this variable, so it seems like it didn't work. So let's try to pass it as an argument. And then just name it of, and let's call it here version, and let's then simplify it a little bit, and here we're just gonna specify export equals the first argument, right? So we also need to wrap it up in quotes. So here it should work. And now we also need to provide here. Yeah, so here it should definitely get passed. And now when we build it, I need just to specify an of like that. Okay, now it actually worked. Okay, so it didn't pass it as a sub environment variable into the shell script. So I have to pass it manually here. Let's do the same with the version. So the second parameter is going to be Magento version. The first one is composer alpha. And now I can actually set this composer alpha variable back to the proper value. And let me try to build it and see if our build continues. Why it's malformed? Oh yeah, it's definitely malformed again, because shell is always requires to wrap the variables itself into double quotes. Okay, now seems like Magento gets installed. I still don't understand why we actually get the cache stored in the root. This is not what should happen there. Another thing, actually, what we need to do. Self-update. And if you ever worked with Magento builds, what is a nice thing for Composer that you can require a global plugin for a Composer called Partissimo. Let me... You actually show it here. So Composer install. Let me look it up here. It's Hierarch Partissimo. This is a nice plugin that allows to parallelize the downloads of Composer dependencies, so your builds are faster because it concurrently downloads all of this stuff. Yeah, so probably we even can add it into the install script itself, because it should be executed under the same user here. So it should be Composer global require this Hierarch Partissimo module. That's one thing. Another thing I wanted to fix, the user execution scope. I want to execute it under the same user. So change home directory user sudo. Okay, so I need to execute it with -h option. Okay, so this is what I need to do. Sudo -h minus user app, and then it should execute it correctly. So, okay, you see it's a very long process right now because it downloads it one by one. But now we're gonna have some very nice installation process speed up. And now you will see that it will concurrently download all of the dependencies. So, how is it going? It takes quite a lot of time. Let's see what our... Yeah, nothing really happening much. So it takes some time to execute it. Okay, so you see right now it concurrently downloads all of the packages before installing them. And when we install Magento from scratch, it's a lot of packages that are uncached. So yeah, quite a lot. When I install it in production, I usually disable plenty of modules so they even not downloaded, but right now we are writing an extension that should be tested against vanilla Magento. So we have to wait till all of this stuff gets downloaded. Interesting, can I actually... probably I can also create some kind of build cache, right? So okay, Magento seems like is installed. Wow. What? Zen framework got abandoned? That's kind of in use. Interesting. Huh. Okay, so looks like yeah, there's gonna be no more thing called Zen framework. Now it's gonna be called Laminas. Interesting when Magento plans actually to move to the new project itself. Okay, so here we have all stuff being built. So if I gonna run it now, let me execute it. And if I'm gonna curl localhost, okay, so for now it's empty. Interesting. Oh, probably it rejects me to install page. Let's see. Yeah, so it rejects me to setup. So we see that Magento actually got installed, and seems like was fine. So let's continue in our install Magento. Probably we can keep it like that, and now we're gonna create another bash script because I'm not gonna run again the whole process of composer initialization. So I will just do a quick creation of another script. Later on I will refactor it, of course, and I will tell it configure Magento sh. Oh no, not sg, sh. Okay, and here it's gonna be bin bash, and here I'm gonna again switch to data web Magento 2, and here I'm gonna run bin Magento, and I'm gonna run module enable all. This one will enable all modules. Then I'm gonna run another script. Yeah, let me actually start a new tab here. Docker ps docker exec practical Hodgkin, practical Hodgkin, and here we can just look into the bash. Oh yeah, I need to specify int. Okay, so now I'm super user, and I can sudo -h -u up. Okay, why it complains? Okay, so up. Okay, now let's see. I can go into Magento directory and I can check what kind of commands are available there. So it should be module, and oh, it's module enable all. It's correct. Now I also can this will actually generate for us up etc config, and after that as well I can create ZDI compile call, right? So I can execute this one. Okay, so it will compile all the dependencies by default. This is one thing, and I also actually wanted to set a deployment mode as production, but seems like I can't do it without installing Magento. Okay, let's see if I can actually parse some configuration here. Okay, so this is this part related to my config. Okay, so we'll have to somehow parse this password and connection settings for database. But first we're gonna execute create database, and we're gonna create Magento 2 database, and now we also gonna execute. I think I already was somehow extracting this password before. Let me just look it up on GitHub. I think I already have it in one of the extensions I was building before. So let me take a look at it. So we have here, yeah, fast hypernode box already has some bash scripts that actually extract MySQL password from that one. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Okay. So here's how you extract a MySQL password. So MySQL password from the file, like you can extract it like that. Then we can run Magento install, setup, install, I think. So what kind of required parameters we need? So we need database host -db host. We also need some well-known admin URI, because the back and front name for testing, if we are gonna ever log in into the admin panel, it should be the same all the time. So okay, install db host is gonna be localhost, I think. Back and front name is gonna be admin docker, let's call it like that. And then apart from db host, we're gonna have also user, and the user, it's always the same on all hypernodes. It's app, then it's the password, and the password we extracted through MySQL password variable, right? And now we also can add db name. and it's gonna be Magento 2, and we're gonna also add here we're gonna add session save as well as a parameter, so I want to make sure that we have type of the session specified, actually not DB. I wanted actually to specify session save as Redis, I think, right? Let's see, session save. Okay, it doesn't show available values, but I think it's just Redis. Then Redis database number, so we're gonna specify here as well session save Redis database number 0. Then we're gonna specify cache, and cache I think is gonna be Redis as well. And cache backend Redis. Yeah, so here it is. As soon as this bootstrap is completed, then we will be able at least to run the real test against the real Magento instance being installed. Okay, so here we have server, and server is gonna be, I think it's just gonna be localhost by default, right? Or we have actually to specify it as well for session in save in Redis as well. It doesn't have a default argument. That's pity. So I have to specify here something like that, and port is, I think it's yeah, let's quickly look it up. It's 6379, 6379. Okay, this is going to be our configuration for sessions, and now also cache backend Redis. Okay, here we're gonna have cache backend Redis server. Yeah, so for cache backend it's actually server, and for session it's actually host. A little bit of inconsistency in parameters names. Okay, the rest of the things I think are kind of default, except probably base URL, right? So let's take a look. Base URL as well, we need to specify. Base URL is going to be localhost. Okay, and time zone, let's put Europe, Amsterdam. You can put any time zone you'd like. Actually, we can make it later on configurable as well. Then we can have currency. Also, I will put here euro. So here it is, and I think that should be enough to install our Magento. Let's remove redundant new lines. Okay, so setup, install, db host, and db user, db password, db name, session, configuration, base URL, and so on. Okay, seems like it should work. Let's see if we can actually build it. Okay, yeah, it still builds the old one because I didn't specify here configure Magento action. So auth inversion doesn't matter. Oh yeah, I didn't copy all sh files, so let's just copy sh files that are available into the current directory. Oh no, my cache got nuked. No. Hope it will restore the previous cache version. Okay, now I can just use that one. Hope so. Does it work? Okay. Cache cleared successfully. Generated classes cleared successfully. Please run setup di compile. The di compilation running. So we just have to wait a little bit. Okay. So what it tells us is that some invalid Redis configuration could not connect to Redis server. And why it cannot connect to Redis server? Because probably I forget to specify something there. So probably it's something related to the database number. Most probably. Is it in cache? Issue in cache or? Okay, where it tells unknown MySQL. Oh, definitely. That's the problem. Yeah. True. So the problem is that none of the services actually yeah, it's interesting. Okay. I actually need to start all the services. before I continue with installation. So what I need to do, I need actually to execute this setup phase afterwards. But I don't want to do it. I want to do it right away. Okay, let's then continue from this step on. Later on, I will try to dig deeper what I can do with the Hypernode. How can I start all the services during the build time? Because yeah, they are started by the custom entry points that they developed. Okay, till the next stream. Thank you everyone who tuned in, and till the next time.